All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's talk now about what that breach of the Capitol means for the future of the Republican Party. Joining us right now is Frank Luntz. Of course, he's a political pollster and strategist. And Frank was with us just 24 hours ago, or just over 24 hours ago, and warned us that the party could be facing the toughest few days of its history. Frank, that was before any of this chaos really played out in Washington, D.C. What do you think now?
Well, in talking to the average Trump voter, I've been attending these rallies since the election. And I was attending Trump rallies before the election to try to understand the anger and the frustration that they have in the country, in the elites. And what happened at the Capitol is predictable, but it is not at all defensible. And I don't understand what took the president so long to tell these people to get out of the Capitol and to stop acting the way that they were. The ramifications are significant. There are people on the Hill who changed their votes last night on the Electoral College because they were so angry and so embarrassed about what was happening in their own building. We've never seen a situation where Americans are attacking their critical institution, and I think that's going to have reverberations among swing voters. The business community, the Chamber of Commerce, Business Roundtable, Manufacturers Association, all three of them, these are important core groups in the economy. They said enough is enough to the president, and they said it before what happened yesterday. These pictures that you're showing right now, I was in the Capitol last night, and the members were chastened, and they were very quiet and not political at all. They knew that something horrible had happened. They knew that their own voters back home would be very upset over the photographs and the videos that you're showing right now, how upsetting it was to them. I think that the Republicans have a lot to do now to repair this breach. They have a lot to do to explain why they did not stand up to the president before this, why it was allowed, why these protests were allowed to get out of control like this. This is a bad time for this country. It's a bad time for the People's House. It's a bad time for the Republican Party. And this morning, I know that there are a lot of people with a lot of regret on their hands. And hopefully, the person who regrets it the most is the President of the United States.
Hey, Frank, there were a lot of Republicans who changed their votes after what we saw happen yesterday, but there were still 138 members of the House of Representatives and 7 senators who voted to overturn or to not accept, not certify the Electoral College results from Pennsylvania, a slightly smaller number from Arizona. I was a little surprised to see that many who were still saying, no, we won't accept the Electoral College votes of a state. That it shows to me that there's still a pretty big divide. And I know a lot of times the dirty little secret in Congress is you can vote for things that you know aren't going to pass just so you can then go back to your base and say, see, I supported you, even knowing that it's not going to happen. But this seemed like a much more consequential vote that could have long-term impacts.
You saw those, and some of those photographs I took, the ones that were outside the Capitol. In watching that, I wonder how and whether the elected representatives really understand that video right there in front of you. I was in the middle of that. That's my video. And people were yelling, and I know that you can't play the sound because of the language that was being used. And in fact, my greatest shock is that there was a woman who was carrying a sign, and I sent it to you guys, you may have it, where she said that Republicans don't, or Trump voters don't protest. They don't act this way. They're not anti-police, and yet that's exactly what you see right there. Protesters yelling at the cops, standing in the way of the vehicles. It's horrible. And I wonder if the members themselves understood the anger and frustration that was happening outside, and whether they understand that those who are not Trump voters, the other greater than half of America, that they, looking at these videos, how upset they will be about what happened in the streets of Washington, D.C. Yes, you're correct that sometimes people cast votes that they really don't mean. But last night, I will say this. They do believe that there's voter fraud. They do believe that the election process is not being waged. And if I can give you one statistic, 80% of Americans believe our democracy is the number one issue facing Congress going forward: the integrity and the accuracy of our election process. And it's not just Republicans, or it would not be the number one issue. The Democrats have their issues as well. I think the business community is expecting Washington to get its act together. It's expecting Republicans and Democrats to figure out what went wrong in these various states, address it, so we never have an election process like we had right now, and so that we can put our focus not just on the economy, but also on COVID.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.